I want to preface this briefing by, saying that we have a constitution in this country, and this government adheres rigidly to the provisions of that constitution. Now, freedom of speech and assembly are enshrined in that, and we absolutely encourage and support freedom of speech of every individual Nigerian, and the freedom of lawful assembly. I think that's important, and so we embrace Nigerians speaking their mind, and because we as a government are here to serve the people and to listen to the people. And our President Muhammadu Buhari, believes in that, and has asked us also to believe and to implement that. So for us, we embrace when Nigerians speak their mind, but also we embrace the law, and it is in the interest of all Nigerians that law and order also has to be upheld. If you violate, if your actions, also interfere with any other individual's right to enjoy their freedoms, then we have an issue there, and the government also is obliged to ensure that every Nigerian is also able to enjoy their freedoms. So it's in this context that I want to look in some detail at what has been transpiring in the last few weeks, and the response of the federal government to what has been transpiring. Of course, a group of young Nigerians, and we want to empower our youth. We believe in our youth, and we are here to serve our youth. And they rose up in a movement, the End SARS movement, and made a number of demands. And, the first was the immediate release of all arrested protesters. Then they also made a demand for justice for all deceased victims of police brutality and appropriate compensation for their families. The third demand is setting up an independent body to oversee the investigation and prosecution of all reports of police misconduct within 10 days. A fourth demand is in line with the new Police Act, psychological evaluation and retraining to be confirmed by an independent body, training of all disbanded SARS officers before they can be redeployed, and increase police salary so that they are adequately compensated for protecting the lives and property of citizens. So, Mr. President listened very carefully and took very seriously the demands of the movement, and directed response by the government. And the first one, on the 11th of October 2020, the Inspector General of Police dissolved the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, across the 36 state police commands and the Federal Capital Territory. And of the movement was accepted and implemented immediately. Then on October, Muhammad Buhari addressed the nation stating, and I quote, "The disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reforms in order to ensure that the primary duty of the police and other law enforcement agencies remains the protection of lives and livelihood of our people. We will also ensure that all those responsible for misconduct or wrongful acts are brought to justice. This is the President's reaction after the dissolution of SARS. He came out with additional steps that will be taken. And a day later, on the 13th of October, the Inspector General of Police ordered all defunct SARS personnel to report at the force headquarters, Abuja, for debriefing, as well as psychological and medical examination. The officers are expected to undergo this process as a prelude to further training and reorientation before being redeployed into mainstream policing duties. The medical examination will be carried out by the new Police Counseling and Support Unit. On the same day, the Presidential Panel on the Reform of SARS accepted the 5-point demand of the EndSARS protesters, those 5 points that I mentioned. 2 days later, on the 15th of October, the National Economic Council, meeting of the governors and all the others, directed the immediate establishment of state-based judicial panels of inquiry across the country to receive and investigate complaints of police brutality or related extrajudicial killings with a view to delivering justice for all victims of the dissolved SARS and other police units. The panel will include representatives of youth, students, civil society organizations, and will also be chaired by a respected retired state high court judge. The panel will have 6 months to complete its assignment. And the National Executive Council took other decisions, Economic Council took other decisions. One, that state governors and the FCT minister should take charge of interface and contact with the protesters in their respective domains. And we've seen in a number of states that the governors have reached out to protesters. Secondly, that state governors should immediately establish state-based special security and human rights committees to be chaired by the governors in their states and to supervise the newly formed police tactical units and all other security agencies located in the states. This will ensure the protection of citizens' human rights, and the members will also include representatives of youth and civil society, as well as the head of police tactical units in each of the states. Then also the NEC directed the establishment by the Special Committee on Security and Human Rights of a human rights public complaints team of between 2 to 3 persons to receive complaints on an ongoing basis. That team would be established by the Special Committee on Security and Human Rights. And state governors, it goes on, to immediately establish a victims fund to enable the payment of monetary compensation to deserving victims. So this is to show that right from the president down to the executive heads of all the states, the Inspector General of Police at the federal level and at the state level have embraced the demands of the NSAS movement and are moving very quickly towards the implementation of that. And that is the federal government's response. Of course, we have also seen that these kinds of movements are open and vulnerable to infiltration by those that might have ulterior motives and other. The government is also very mindful that to take necessary measures to ensure that the legitimate demands of the youth is in no way compromised by opportunists who have different agenda and motives. And I think this is very important to bear in mind, not just for us as government, but also for the youth who have, and others who have genuine grievances, that this does not happen and that we do not allow this process, this democratic process, to be hijacked by those who have more sinister motives and intentions. So I will leave that there, because that is the situation, and the government also wants to focus on those clear, very lucid demands that were initially made and address those very quickly. Larger governmental issues and societal issues are being addressed and will be addressed in the normal course of government business. When this government was elected and brought to office, it was to have 4 years in which to address so many issues. And of course, that is an ongoing process. But here we are faced with a very particular issue, a crisis, and we want to address that particular crisis without being distracted also with other things. So thank you for your attention on this. There are other ministers here, and very importantly, the Minister of Information and Culture, the spokesperson of the government, the Minister of Aviation, who is also a member of the Federal Executive Council, the Honorable Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, who will also have the opportunity to take the floor and also give other perspectives on this crisis. Thank you very much for your attention.